Not laying down for predatory billing practices. Dude was denied a $45 refund. They paid $23 million a couple of years later. A close friend of mine, who would absolutely love to gloat about this here, but can't because of rule number 4, that is no personal information allowed on this subreddit. It takes very little imagination to find the public notifications that the case generated, gave me the nod to tell this story, which begins with his impulsive decision to try out the paid features of a dating app for 1 week for the usual reasons, sometime in the middle of 2018. He says he clicked through the paywall, was prompted for a credit card number, which he provided, agreeing to pay $6.99. He saw nothing to indicate that it would be a recurrent billing. Of course, this was naive, but being a guy who was just coming into the age where he had enough money to afford stuff like that, he didn't have much experience doing business with tech companies. He says he wasn't much more impressed with the paid features than the free ones, and kind of just stopped opening the app, deleted it from his phone a couple of weeks later, and pretty much forgot about it. Fast forward 3 months, he sees a charge for $6.99 paid to Social Media Inc., or some similarly nondescriptive name. He drills down and sees that he's been paying it every week for a few months. He ends up having to call his bank, which provided enough information for him to connect the dots. After searching for a way to contact customer service unsuccessfully, he re-downloaded the app and found no obvious way to unsubscribe. He followed the help links, which provided instructions that didn't work. Eventually, he found an email address and sent a succinct description of his problem and received a flippant response, which regurgitated the instructions from the help pages in the app. This initiated a series of emails over the better part of a week in which he provided increasingly detailed info about the screens he was presented with as he tried to follow their instructions, and received increasingly dismissive and even contemptuous responses until he received a set of slightly modified instructions that included updating the app. There had obviously been a bug, but there was no apology, and at this point, the amount of time it cost him had added injury to insults. He requested a $45 refund for the weeks that he hadn't even had the app installed in his phone, and received a sneering denial in response. Okay, good. I was a bit worried here that this man was going to request a refund for the weeks that he had been paying. He just didn't realize it, which, yeah, it's annoying. But, we've all done it. We've all signed up to something and then not realized that it's a continuing subscription. And that's kind of on us, let's be honest. That is, if it was obvious when we made the purchase that it was going to be an ongoing subscription. But no, in this case, yeah, the fact that there's been a bug on the app and he couldn't even stop his subscription when he knew he was still paying, that is definitely grounds for a refund. And of course, $45 is pretty fair, I imagine, for the weeks where he couldn't cancel. Anyway, let's carry on. Figuring it was likely that others had been treated the same way, he simply Googled class action lawsuit against well-known dating app and discovered that he was correct. A law firm that was only one area code away from his had filed a complaint on behalf of a class of people with similar complaints. He called the number, left a message, got a return call about an hour later from an attorney that was eager to hear his story. He was asked to gather some bank statements, Google Play Store account records, and write a couple of paragraphs describing his experience, which he provided in a neatly compiled PDF package. A week or so later, there was a second interview with that attorney and one of his colleagues, ending with them inviting him to be the lead plaintiff of their class action lawsuit. Fast forward 2.5 years, during which my friend invested maybe 20 or 30 hours, mostly in phone calls and one in-person meeting with the same two attorneys, who it turns out were the entire firm. He received a phone call notifying him that the legal team for this giant tech firm had crumbled as the court date approached and agreed to a settlement of $23 million. My friend received a modest 4-digit incentive award in return for being the lead plaintiff. I guess the lawyers did much better in return for the 2.5 years of working their butts off in what was kind of a risky David and Goliath situation for them. The attorneys gleefully invited him to get in touch and share any future perceived injustices with them, which he has, but unfortunately tech companies have become much more arbitration clausey, so that's probably a one-time shot for him. But in a world of increasingly predatory corporations that strive to squeeze consumers by trapping us in TLDR terms and conditions and monopolizing every corner of the economy, my friend now has a script for standing up for himself when he perceives that he's being taken advantage of. It goes something like, I want to make you aware that I'm a guy who makes time to stand up for myself as a consumer. It's become sort of a hobby, and I'm pretty good at it. I don't object to businesses making a fair profit, but if you're going to try and squeeze me, I promise it won't be worth it. And if there's any doubt in your mind that I mean what I say, do a Google search for my name versus dating app. Yes, it can be annoying. I should mention that he has a very patient significant other. Now guys, although the person who wrote this on Reddit, due to this subreddit's rules, which is no personal information allowed, is therefore not allowed to say, his friend who was involved or the name of the dating app. I have really tried over literally like the last 10-15 minutes since recording that to work out and find an article about this, and I haven't been able to do so, which is very annoying because I would love to go into more detail about this and see exactly who was involved, because I'm allowed to, right? This person isn't because it's on Reddit. I'm allowed to for the sake of this episode, but I can't find any information. So any detectives out there, if you want to try and find some more information about this, then be my guest, help me out, drop me a comment down below if you can. I'm yet to find anything more about this, sadly, but yeah, you guys let me know if you know any more about this. But what I can comment on is the story itself, at least what we know of it. And I will say that, yeah, it's very, very poor from this company to not just give a little refund. $45 in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not 100% sure on this. I do believe that the dating app is Tinder. I'm not, because again, I don't know that for fact, but that's just what I think from doing a little bit of research here. And yeah, I think Tinder can afford $45. I mean, they can also afford $23 million, to be fair to them. But, there's a bit of a difference there, is what I'll say. Now, I know that some of you probably are thinking, and I was thinking this as well, that OP or OP's friend just getting, 4 figures is really terrible, given the fact that Tinder have paid out $23 million. But apparently, just from looking in the comments down below, lead plaintiffs do generally not get that much when something like this happens. OP has said that, yeah, the lawyers won big time and they would have found another lead plaintiff if it wasn't for his friend. He didn't even get deposed because of COVID, so he can't even argue that it was his rhetorical skill. It was 100% the lawyers, but the fact remains, he did ask for $45 and they paid 23 mil, which is pretty elite. He also says that incentive awards for lead plaintiffs of class actions are always pretty low to discourage opportunists from making it a career, which does make sense, but still, it does seem a little bit, a little bit of a kick in the butt, knowing that someone's made 23 million because of what's happened to you, and you're getting maximum $9,000, $9,999. But nonetheless, a phenomenal story. Let's move on to the next. I was a crappy customer to our crappy customer. I used to work a customer service job at a dispensary. We had this one customer who was just a cranky, miserable woman. She'd come in acting all sweet, say hi to us all, ask for her products, and then the show would begin. Here's an example of how these transactions typically went. This isn't what I ordered. Go get what I ordered. No, ma'am, you specifically requested this eighth. You said you wanted 3.5 grams of brownie scouts. No, I said I wanted the pineapple gummies. Go get them now. So we'd go and get the things she said she wanted. She'd complain about lazy employees, be all smiles again, and then she'd pay and leave. And be right back in the store a half hour later with any excuse she could think of. The package was opened when she got it. The edibles melted together. There was a hair in her jar. The packaging smelled like chlorine. Any stupid excuse she could pull from her butt, looking for a refund or store credit, she'd try and use it. Every single time she came in, this is how it went. But then one day, I went to a gas station to fill up my car while I was in the next town over. And wouldn't you be danged, she was a cashier at the gas station. So I, of course, asked for a pack of Marlboro 100s. She grabbed a pack and I said, "That's not what I asked for. I asked for the Camels." She grabbed the Camels. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the Newports. She sighed and grabbed the Newports. What are you doing? I'm just in here to pay for my gas. The long stare she gave me was almost enough to make me regret starting this. But she knew, as an employee, she could get in real trouble if she snapped. So she forced a smile, put my cash in the register, and I went on my merry way. But I wasn't done. I came right back in 5 minutes later. I looked at her and said, "Excuse me, I only spent X amount on gas, but you took all of my money? Where's my change?" She's obviously super annoyed at this point, but what is she going to do about it? That's freaking right, absolutely nothing. So she tries very hard and fails to politely explain to me that the gas cost the amount I'd given her and she couldn't give me the difference. So in a voice that almost sounded exactly like hers, I complained about lazy employees, smiled sweetly, said goodbye and walked out. Just like she does. She actually didn't learn her lesson for a while. She came back in a few times with her same old routine. Then I recruited a co-worker and we both went back to that gas station separately a few times and did our new routine. After trying and failing to file a complaint, she stopped coming in entirely and the balance was finally restored. I don't work at the dispensary anymore, but traumatizing her the way she did my co-workers and I still makes me smile years later. Now that right there is some classic revenge, no malice, just good old-fashioned karma. So good. This is just the revenge that I love, where nobody gets really hurt. It's just a consequence of your own actions, and someone realizes, it's making somebody realizes that what you're doing is extremely annoying, and they only realize it when it's done to them. It's just beautiful. You know, no one's house has been burnt down, no one's been killed. It's just good old-fashioned, sensible, logical, and justifiable revenge. So good. No one gets hurt. It's just great. Interestingly, OP has said in the comments that this woman didn't recognize him the first time he came in, but after 2 more visits to the dispensary, she finally put 2 and 2 together. Maybe that is why she didn't change her ways immediately. He says, once she knew mine and my co-workers' names, that's when she filed the complaint. Oh, goodness me. But since we never did anything wrong to her in our store, there was nothing HR could do about it. Yeah, that is valid. Okay, let's move on to our final revenge story of this episode. Tricking my slacker co-worker into sabotaging himself. I work in an office with a guy I'll call Seth. Seth is that co-worker everyone knows. Lazy, always passing his work onto someone else, and somehow always getting away with it. He'll sit around on his phone or go to the bathroom every 10 minutes. He's the kind of guy who will show up late, make some lame excuse about traffic, and then disappear for lunch for 2 hours. For the past 6 months, Seth's favourite target has been me. He'll send emails asking if I can help out with a project, but what he really means is do all the work while I take the credit. I complained to my boss a couple of times, but somehow Seth always managed to weasel his way out of trouble. The final straw came when he passed off a major report that was due to a client in 2 days, dumping it on me last minute. One day I casually asked him if he was good with Excel, and he admitted he didn't know much about it. Perfect. The next time Seth tried to dump a bunch of spreadsheets on me to organize for his next report, I agreed. But this time I embedded a series of hidden formulas into the documents. These formulas didn't do anything important, just enough to mess with the numbers if someone didn't know how to check for hidden cells. It took me a little time, but I was careful not to make it too obvious. The kicker? Every time Seth tried to copy and paste the data into his report, it would scramble everything just enough to be completely useless. On the day the report was due, Seth slacked off like usual, assuming I had handled it like always. When the client called, furious because the report was filled with nonsense numbers, Seth panicked. He rushed to fix it, but every time he tried to fix one part of the report, something else would break. He came to me, frantic, and asked for help. I acted confused and said, "Oh, I don't know what happened. Maybe it's a glitch." I gave him some vague advice and watched as he spent the entire day trying to salvage his mess. Our boss found out, and for once, Seth couldn't talk his way out of it. He got lambasted for screwing up such an important project and was put on temporary leave without pay. I guess he'll be doing his own work from now on. This is so good. Everyone hates this sort of person in any company or any walk of life, to be fair. Someone that is a good talker, right? They're probably a people person. They can sort of swindle their way in and out of situations, and they're probably quite impressive when you first meet them. But they actually don't do anything. They just use other people and then, take the credit for everything. And only when this sort of thing happens do they get found out. And thankfully that's happened. Because some people are very, very good at hiding the fact that they don't actually do anything or offer any value to a company. And Seth is clearly one of those people. But yeah, OP, good stuff. Great sabotage as well. The fact that he was trying to fix it and every time he tried to fix it, it just stayed worse, but in a different way. That he probably thought he was fixing it, but was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And I'm terrible with Excel. Hidden cells, just the sound of those just scare me. So this would definitely work on me as well. Great stuff. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on these 3 stories in the comments down below. If you want more like this right away, some more revenge content is on screen right there. And if you're new to the channel, hit this button, subscribe, turn notifications on so you get notified when I post a new episode tomorrow.